The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I was reviewing quarterly reports in my corner office at Meridian Financial, the boutique wealth management firm I'd built from nothing over the past 7 years. The caller ID showed Mom, and I almost didn't answer. Our conversations had become increasingly strained over the past year. "Hello, Mom." "Jessica." Her voice was crisp, businesslike. No warmth. "I'm calling about Thanksgiving." I leaned back in my leather chair, watching the Seattle skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. "What about it?" "We've decided to have a more intimate gathering this year. Just immediate family." The words hit exactly as intended. I wasn't considered immediate family anymore, apparently. "I see. Your sister's bringing the kids and David's fiancé will be there. We just think it would be better if you took this year off." I could hear my brother David laughing in the background, probably listening to every word. My sister Emma's voice chimed in. "Tell her we need the drama-free zone this year." "We're having Thanksgiving without you this year," Mom declared more firmly, as if I hadn't understood the first time. "We need peace." Peace. As if I was the source of family chaos. As if my success was somehow an embarrassment to them. As if working 80-hour weeks to build something meaningful made me the problem. I kept my voice steady. "Enjoy your meal." "Good. I'm glad you understand." She paused. "Maybe next year things will be different." Different. Code for, maybe next year you'll have given up this silly career and found a nice husband like Emma did. After she hung up, I sat in the silence of my office, processing what had just happened. My own family had uninvited me from Thanksgiving. The holiday I'd been looking forward to for months. The one time of year we all came together despite our differences. What they didn't realize was that I'd been managing their $50 million trust fund for 3 years. Let me explain how that happened, because it's not exactly a normal family arrangement. 3 years ago my grandfather passed away. Before his death he'd been worried about the family's financial future. He'd seen David's gambling problems, Emma's shopping addiction, and my parents' complete inability to manage money responsibly. They were living off his generosity, but he knew that wouldn't last forever. So he did something unexpected. He came to me. "Jessica," he'd said during one of our last conversations, "you're the only one in this family with a head for business. I want you to manage the trust fund after I'm gone." I'd protested. "Grandpa, I'm sure Mom and Dad would prefer to handle their own finances." He'd laughed, but it was bitter. "Your parents have never balanced a checkbook in their lives. David borrowed $50,000 from me last month for investments that I know went straight to Atlantic City. And Emma spent $30,000 on a handbag collection." The trust fund was substantial. $50 million, built over 3 generations of careful investments and business ownership. My great-grandfather had started with a small manufacturing company. My grandfather had expanded it into a conglomerate. And when he sold everything in the 1990s, he'd invested the proceeds wisely. "The beneficiaries will be your parents, David and Emma," he'd explained. "But you'll be the trustee. You'll decide when and how much they receive." "What about me?" "You're building your own empire, sweetheart. You don't need my money. But they do, and they need someone responsible making sure they don't blow through it in 5 years." I'd agreed, thinking it would bring the family closer together. I'd be helping them, securing their futures, making sure they could maintain their lifestyle without worry. What I didn't anticipate was how much they'd come to resent me for my own success. The wealth management firm I'd started had grown exponentially. We managed over $2 billion in assets for high-net-worth clients, and I'd become one of the most respected financial advisors on the West Coast. I owned a penthouse downtown, drove a Tesla Model S, and had been featured on the cover of Financial Weekly magazine. But instead of being proud, my family seemed embarrassed by my achievements. At family dinners, they'd make snide comments about my fancy career, and ask when I was going to settle down like a normal person. They treated my success as if it was somehow unseemly, as if making money was beneath a proper lady. The irony was that while they were criticizing my career, they were living quite comfortably off the trust fund I managed for them. Their monthly distributions were substantial. My parents received $45,000 per month. David got $25,000 per month. Emma received $30,000 per month. That's $100,000 every month, $1.2 million per year, flowing to people who had just uninvited me from Thanksgiving because I was apparently too successful for their comfort. The next morning, All accounts were frozen. I arrived at the office early on Wednesday, made myself a strong cup of coffee and opened the trust management system. With a few keystrokes, I suspended all distributions pending a routine administrative review. It was completely legal. As trustee, I had full discretionary power over the timing and amount of distributions. The trust documents, which my grandfather had drafted with the best estate attorneys in the city, gave me broad authority to withhold funds if I deemed it in the beneficiary's best interests. And frankly, I was starting to think it might be in their best interests to learn some gratitude. My phone started ringing at 10:47 a.m. Jessica? There's some kind of problem with my account. It was my mother, and for the first time in months, she sounded uncertain rather than commanding. What kind of problem? The bank says my transfer was declined. The automatic payment for the country club didn't go through either. That's strange. Can you look into it? I need to pay the caterer for the Thanksgiving dinner. The caterer? For the dinner I wasn't invited to. I'll see what I can find out. By noon, all three of them had called with similar issues. David's mortgage payment had bounced. Emma's credit card had been declined at Nordstrom. My parents' automatic bill payments were failing across the board. I let them worry for the rest of the day. Thursday morning, Thanksgiving Day, I was having coffee on my penthouse balcony when my phone rang. David this time, and he sounded panicked. Jess, what the hell is going on? My bank account shows zero balance, and they're saying there's a hold on the trust distributions. There's been an administrative review triggered in the trust account, I said calmly. These things happen periodically. What kind of review? How long will it take? It's difficult to say. Could be a few days, could be a few weeks. Depends on what the review uncovers. A few weeks. Jessica, I have bills to pay. The mortgage is due, car payments, credit cards. I'm sure you have some savings to cover things temporarily. Dead silence. Of course he didn't have savings. None of them did. They spent every penny they received each month, never considering that the money might not always be there. You don't understand, David continued, his voice getting higher. I don't have backup funds. The trust payments they're everything. That seems like poor financial planning, David. Don't lecture me. Just fix this. I'll do what I can. Enjoy your Thanksgiving dinner. By Friday afternoon, the panic was reaching critical levels. Emma showed up at my office building. Security called up from the lobby. Miss Harrison, there's an Emma Garrett here to see you. She says she's your sister. Send her up. Emma burst into my office like a woman possessed. Her usual perfectly styled hair was disheveled, and she was wearing the same outfit I'd seen her in yesterday on her Instagram story. What did you do? She demanded. I'm sorry. The trust fund. The money. Everything's frozen and you're the only one who can fix it. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Please have a seat. Let's discuss this like adults. I don't want to sit. I want answers. Emma, I told David, and I'll tell you, there's an administrative review in progress. These things take time. Bullshit. He was nearly shouting now. You're doing this because of Thanksgiving, aren't you? I raised an eyebrow. Thanksgiving. Don't play dumb. You're pissed because Mom uninvited you, so you're taking it out on all of us. That's quite an accusation. It's not an accusation, it's a fact. You've always been vindictive when things don't go your way. I leaned back in my chair, studying my sister. At 34, she'd never held a real job. Her entire adult life had been funded by family money, first our parents, then the trust fund. She'd married her college boyfriend, divorced him 3 years later, and had been living off her settlement and trust distributions ever since. Emma, can I ask you something? What? When was the last time you thanked me for managing your finances? She blinked. What? I've been handling your trust distributions for 3 years. Making sure you have money every month, managing the investments that generate your income, filing all the tax paperwork. When did you last acknowledge that? That's your job. Actually, it's not. I'm not paid for managing the family trust. I do it because Grandpa asked me to and because I care about the family's financial security. Well, thank you, I guess. Now can you fix this? Emma, do you know how much money you receive from the trust each year? I don't know enough. $360,000. That's more than most people make in a decade, and you receive it every year just for being born into this family. So yesterday you and the rest of the family decided that my presence was somehow incompatible with a peaceful Thanksgiving. You excluded me from a family gathering, treating me like I was toxic. Her face was turning red. That's completely different. Is it? Because from where I sit, it looks like you want the benefits of having me in the family, the financial management, the steady income, the investment growth, without actually having to treat me like family. You're being ridiculous. Am I? Let me ask you this. What have you contributed to the family lately besides criticism of my career choices? That's not. You can't just cut off our money because your feelings are hurt. I haven't cut off anything permanently. The trust is under review. Review for what? I turned my computer monitor toward her and pulled up a detailed spending analysis I'd prepared. This is a breakdown of trust distributions over the past 12 months. Emma leaned forward, squinting at the screen. David received $300,000. Know what he spent it on? $70,000 went to casinos in Atlantic City. $40,000 to online poker sites. $30,000 to a day trading account that he lost completely. The rest went to basic living expenses that should cost half what he's spending. Emma's mouth opened slightly. Your expenses are interesting too. $15,000 at luxury handbag stores. $20,000 on a 2-week vacation in Europe. $8,000 at spa resorts. You're spending money like it's unlimited. It's my money. Actually, it's not. It's trust money, distributed at my discretion based on what I believe is in your best interests. And I'm starting to think that giving you unlimited access to funds you didn't earn isn't helping you develop into a responsible adult. You can't do this. I can and I am. The trust documents give me full authority over distributions. I could theoretically suspend payments indefinitely if I felt it was appropriate. Emma's face went white. You wouldn't. I might. Depends on how this conversation goes. She sat down heavily in the chair, the fight going out of her. Jessica, please. I need that money. Why? What do you mean why? Why do you need it? What are you contributing to society? What value are you creating? What would happen if you had to get a job like every other adult in America? I don't know how to get a job. I haven't worked since college. Then maybe it's time to learn. She started crying then, not the manipulative tears she'd used as a child, but genuine fear and desperation. I don't know how to do anything else. I've never had to. And whose fault is that? Yours. The family's. Grandpa's. You've all made it so I didn't have to work. Grandpa created the trust to provide security, not to enable dependency. There's a difference. Please don't cut me off. I'll do anything. Anything. Yes. Call Mom and Dad. Tell them you want me at Thanksgiving dinner. What? You heard me. The 3 of you made a family decision to exclude me. Now make a family decision to include me. But Mom said she wants peace. Emma, you're about to lose $30,000 a month. How peaceful is your life going to be when you can't pay your rent? She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. The call was brief and brutal. I could hear my mother's voice getting increasingly shrill as Emma explained the situation. You told her what? Mom's voice was so loud I could hear it clearly from across the desk. She froze the trust accounts, Mom. All of them. David's freaking out, my credit cards aren't working, and she says it's because we uninvited her from Thanksgiving. That's extortion. She's not asking for money, she just wants to come to dinner. A long pause. Then, put her on the phone. Emma handed me her phone. Mom wants to talk to you. Hello, Mom. Jessica Marie Harrison, you will restore those trust accounts immediately. I'll restore them when the administrative review is complete. There is no administrative review. You're just throwing a tantrum. Actually, there is a review. I'm reviewing whether unlimited financial support is helping or harming the beneficiary's long-term development. You can't hold our money hostage. It's not your money, Mom. It's trust money. Grandpa gave me the authority to manage it, and that's what I'm doing. He never intended for you to use it as a weapon. Are you sure about that? Because when he set up this structure, he told me that the family had a tendency toward financial irresponsibility. He wanted someone with a fiduciary mindset making the decisions. I don't care what he said. You will fix this right now. I'll consider it if you reconsider the Thanksgiving invitation. This is blackmail. This is family dynamics, Mom. You made a choice to exclude me. I'm making a choice about how to respond. Fine. You can come to dinner. Are you happy now? I don't want a grudging invitation. I want you to actually want me there. I do want you there. No, you don't. You want your money. There's a difference. The line went quiet for a long moment. Jessica. My mother's voice was softer now. I honestly don't understand why this is so important to you. It's just one dinner. Mom, do you know what I do for work? I manage money for rich people. I manage $2 billion in assets for families who trust me with their financial futures. I've built a firm that employs 37 people. I was nominated for Financial Advisor of the Year by the Seattle Business Journal. That's very nice, dear. But you've never once asked me about my work. Never shown any interest in what I've accomplished. The only time you call me is when you need something. That's not true. When was the last time you called just to see how I was doing? Silence. Mom, I love this family. I want to be part of it. But I'm tired of being treated like the black sheep because I chose a different path than Emma did. Emma chose family. Marriage, children. Emma chose dependency. And I chose independence. Both are valid choices, but only one of us is contributing to the family's financial stability. Another long pause. I suppose we haven't been very supportive of your career. You suppose correctly. It's just that, it's hard to understand. When I was your age, women didn't do what you do. Times change, Mom. Yes, I suppose they do. She sighed. Jessica, I would like you to come to Thanksgiving dinner. Not because of the money, but because you're my daughter and I miss you. Do you mean that? Yes. I do. What about David and Emma? They'll adjust. And if they don't, they can eat somewhere else. I smiled for the first time in days. Thank you, Mom. That means everything to me. So you'll restore the accounts? I'll release this month's distributions immediately. But I want to have a conversation with the whole family about long-term financial planning. What kind of conversation? The kind where we talk about what happens if the trust money runs out. The kind where we discuss everyone's financial goals and responsibilities. The kind where we plan for a future that doesn't depend on unlimited family support. Jessica, we've always had family money. And we always will if we're smart about it. But that means living below our means, not above them. It means the trust distributions should supplement earned income, not replace it entirely. You want David and Emma to get jobs? I want David and Emma to become productive adults. Whether that means traditional employment, starting businesses, going back to school, or finding other ways to contribute value to society. They're not going to like this. I'm sure they're not. But Grandpa didn't create this trust to fund a lifetime of leisure. He created it to provide security while family members built their own lives. And if they refuse? Then they'll discover how expensive life gets when you're spending your own money instead of someone else's. Jessica, you're talking about fundamentally changing how this family works. Good. Because how this family works isn't working anymore. On Thanksgiving Day, I arrived at my parents' house at exactly 2 p.m., carrying a bottle of wine and a pumpkin pie from my favorite bakery. David's car was already there, as was Emma's. My mother answered the door, and for the first time in months, she hugged me without reservation. I'm glad you're here, she said, and I could tell she meant it. Me too. In the living room, David and Emma were sitting stiffly on the couch. David looked like he hadn't slept in days, and Emma's designer outfit was clearly something she'd owned for a while rather than a recent purchase. Hi, guys. Hi, they mumbled in unison. My father emerged from the kitchen, wearing his traditional Thanksgiving apron. Jessica. Good to see you. Thanks, Dad. So, David said without preamble, about the trust accounts. David, my mother interrupted, we agreed to have dinner first. I know, but I just want to make sure everything's going to be okay. I sat down across from him. Everything's going to be fine, David. But we do need to have a conversation about the future. What kind of conversation? The kind where we talk about your plans beyond the trust fund. What do you mean? I mean, what do you want to do with your life? What are your goals? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? He looked confused. I don't know. I never really thought about it. You're 36 years old, David. Don't you think it's time to start thinking about it? I guess. Emma shifted uncomfortably. Are you saying we need to get jobs? I'm saying you need to figure out what you want your lives to look like. The trust fund should be a safety net, not a career plan. But we've never had to work. And how has that served you? Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Do you feel proud of what you've accomplished? Emma looked down at her hands. Not really. Then maybe it's time to try something different. Over dinner we had the most honest conversation our family had shared in years. David admitted that he'd been gambling because he was bored and felt useless. Emma confessed that she'd been shopping compulsively to fill the emptiness in her life. My parents acknowledged that they'd enabled both behaviors by making financial success seem unimportant. I want to try, Emma said as we were clearing the dishes. Getting a job, I mean. I don't know what I'd be good at, but I want to try. What interests you? I asked. I've always been good with people. And I like organizing things. Have you considered event planning? Or maybe working at a nonprofit? I never thought about nonprofits. There are a lot of organizations that need people with your social skills and attention to detail. And the work would give you a sense of purpose. David was listening intently. What about me? I don't have any marketable skills. That's not true. You're great with technology, you understand financial markets, and you're actually quite smart when you're not distracted by gambling. You think I could work in finance? I think you could do anything you put your mind to. But first, you need to address the gambling addiction. He nodded. I know. I've been thinking about getting help. I can recommend some excellent counselors. You would do that? David, I want you to succeed. All of you. That's why I'm willing to be the bad guy when it comes to financial discipline. My mother reached across the table and took my hand. I owe you an apology. For what? For not understanding what you've been trying to do. For not supporting your career. For taking your financial management for granted. And for uninviting you from Thanksgiving, Emma added quietly. That hurt, I admitted. But I understand why you did it. Change is uncomfortable and I've been pushing for a lot of changes. Good changes though, David said. I can see that now. As I drove home that evening, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope for my family's future. Not because they were wealthy, but because they were finally ready to take responsibility for their own lives. The next morning, I restored all the trust accounts and transferred the November distributions. But I also created new account structures that would encourage saving and investing rather than just spending. And I scheduled monthly meetings with each family member to discuss their financial goals and progress. 3 months later, Emma started working part-time at a children's charity. David began attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings and enrolled in a financial planning certification program. My parents started volunteering at a local food bank and discovered they enjoyed helping people who had less than they did. The trust fund was still there, still providing security and comfort. But it was no longer the centerpiece of anyone's existence. Instead, it had become what my grandfather had always intended. A foundation for building meaningful lives, not a substitute for living them. And our family dinners, which resumed on a monthly basis, were filled with stories of real accomplishments, genuine challenges, and the satisfaction that comes from creating value in the world. The best part? Nobody ever questioned my invitation again.